I give the floor to the representative of Algeria.
Madam President, I have the honor to deliver this statement on behalf of the members of the A3+, namely Guyana, Mozambique, Sierra Leone, and my own country, Algeria. At the outset, the A3+ would like to thank Mr. Peterson and Mr. Fletcher for their valuable briefings. We listened carefully to the representatives of the civil society. Madam President, our meeting takes place in a unique context. Syria. Syria, a nation exhausted by conflict, could choose the long road to peace. This situation brings immense hope for Syrians. However, it also causes significant concern as the fragile calm of recent days risk being disrupted, plunging Syria into a renewed crisis that no one wishes to see. The A3+ firmly believes that the time has come for a genuine Syrian-led and a Syrian-owned political process under the auspices of the United Nations for a new Syria that unites all Syrians. Yes, all Syrians, regardless of ethnicity or religious denominations. All Syrians, including women and young people, should be fully and meaningfully engaged in this political process. The involvement of the civil society is also key to ensuring a successful transition in Syria towards the realization of the aspirations of the Syrian people. In this regard, we fully support the efforts of the Special Envoy and urge the meaningful implementation of Resolution 2254, including the establishment of an inclusive transitional governing body with full executive power. We also stress the critical role of the United Nations at this juncture, underscoring that the Syrian people should be able to rely on the organization's support and expertise as they navigate the path ahead toward building a strong, sustainable culture of good governance. It is time for inclusivity, not division. It is time for inclusivity, not division. It is time for dialogue, not arms. It is time for dialogue, not arms. The A3+ reaffirms its unwavering commitment to Syria's sovereignty, independence, unity, and territorial integrity. We firmly reject any attempt to divide Syria. To move forward from its history of violence, Syria should not be an arena of polarization or rivalry of external powers. The A3 Plus stresses that only the Syrian people will freely decide the future of Syria. This fragile situation must not be exploited for the resurgence of terrorism. And in this context, decisive and collaborative action is therefore required. Furthermore, the A3 Plus reiterate that Syria's territorial integrity must be respected by all. And in this regard, we express our grave concern over the recent military incursions by the Israeli Defense Forces into Syrian territory, which constitute a flagrant violation of international law, a flagrant violation of the UN Charter. We emphasize the critical role of UNDOF in maintaining peace and stability in the region. And we also reject any unilateral actions undermining its mandate and its missions. The A3 Plus reaffirms the UN resolution related to the Golan Heights, underscoring that the Golan is a Syrian territory under occupation. And we call for full respect of the 1974 disengagement agreement, including the status of the area of separation. And we urge all parties to comply with their obligation in this regard. Madam President, the humanitarian situation in Syria remains dire, representing one of the most pressing challenges for the international community. Nearly 17 million people are now in need of assistance. And the latest developments have exacerbated the situation, with over 1 million people displaced in recent days. The A3 Plus express grave concern over these developments, and we call for broad mobilization to enable humanitarian actors to address the urgent needs of the population. Continued fighting, particularly in the northeast, will only worsen the humanitarian situation. We urge all parties to comply with their obligations under international humanitarian law, including those related to the protection of civilians and civilian infrastructure. We call for an immediate nationwide ceasefire, to ensure freedom of movement for humanitarian actors. Unhindered humanitarian access must be guaranteed through all available mechanisms, including cross-border operations, to provide essential assistance to those in need. The A3 Plus calls upon donors to mobilize adequate funding for the humanitarian response plan in Syria. Increasing needs demand more resources. The Syrian people must not be abandoned. And we stress that the return of displaced Syrians to their home must be voluntary, must be safe, must be dignified. No one should be forced to return. Conditions must be created in Syria through early recovery and reconstruction to facilitate this process. Madam President, the latest developments in Syria have shown that unresolved crises do not simply fade away. They re-emerge. If a comprehensive and inclusive solution is not found for the situation in Syria, the repercussion will be disastrous for the region. For the A3+, it is the responsibility of the international community to stand with the Syrian people and help them build a brighter future for their countries. The international community should not repeat the mistakes made elsewhere in the region. The international community, I repeat, should not repeat the mistakes made elsewhere in the region. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Algeria for their statement.